Hey guys. This will be a movie for now because of the few chapters available. I'll update if there will be more. This is what if Naruto became a spy and the father of Anya. For years have passed since the fourth great shinobi war. Naruto has spent his time on the fast track to Hokage and has spent a lot of time polishing his skills for the day his dreams become a reality. Naruto is assigned a mission to help develop his skills in espionage and diplomacy, but the mission turns out to be more than what meets the eye. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 1. The Tonari arc did not happen like in the canon timeline. Thus, Naruto and Hinata never got together. The Savior of the World. The Savior of the World, a name he had been stuck with for the last 4 years. Naruto often wondered if he would be able to escape such a name. As a child, he craved the attention of everyone, but now all eyes are on him, yet he fails to find the satisfaction he yearned for all those years ago. Naruto sat in the middle of a grassy field surrounded by forestry. The grass was tall and unkempt, and waved like the mighty ocean as the wind blew through. There was a blanket underneath Naruto's crossed feet and several scrolls. They varied in size and some lay scattered unrolled, revealing their secrets to the world. Directly in front of Naruto, a scroll the size of a meter lay unrolled in front of him. To his right, a small bottle of ink sat unopened with ink splattered on the blanket directly below it. Naruto grumbled to himself as he held his wrapped hand with a brush to his face. The brush dripped ink onto his lap and stained the gray pants he was wearing. Naruto paid no attention to the stains on his dark pants as he stared at the writing on the scroll in front of him. His eyes darted back and forth on the scroll as he analyzed his work with vigor. Then his eyes stopped moving. Out of nowhere, Naruto dropped the pen out of his hand. Without missing a beat, Naruto flashed through the 30 hand seals needed for the seal in front of him. Finishing on the ram's seal, he separated his hands and slammed his palm on the seal below him. Clank! The brush had hit the ground. Naruto held his breath. He watched as the kanji below his hand began to glow a dim blue light. Then, to his surprise, Naruto watched as the kanji began to move toward the palm of his left hand and disappear underneath it. Naruto gave a giddy smile as he watched his creation work. "Let's go!" screamed Naruto as jumped up in joy. Naruto began to jump all around the field as the grassy blades cheered him on. Naruto gave a twirl and finally fell onto his back. He put his hand up to the sky and then turned his palm toward his eyes. His palm looked no different, but as he pulsed a bit of chakra to his hand, he watched as a small swirl appeared on his palm. At last, Naruto had been able to replicate his mother's work. It was a sacred seal passed on from one Hokage to the next. It allowed for the release of high-level seals without having to draw them out, instead using hand seals to release the seals. Created by the Uzumaki clan and passed down from Hokage to Hokage. While Naruto was no Hokage, he was an Uzumaki. After 4 years of learning Fuinjutsu and his mother's notes, he had been able to replicate the seal. It was not the flying Raijin, but it was his pride. The only fallback to the jutsu was that it was limited by the number of seals stored in the storage seal in which he had created the seal. Kakashi's storage seal was enormous due to having shared a scroll with 6 previous Hokages, 2 of whom were probably some of the greatest Fuinjutsu masters to ever live. However, Naruto had been able to acquire a vast amount of seals due to his mother's notes. At Naruto's current ability, he couldn't quite replicate all of them, but he had managed to recreate a good number. Naruto then just stared hard at his hand. A minute passed. Then 2 minutes. Then 10 minutes. He just kept staring at his hand until his arm began to tire. His face just stayed blank as he kept staring at his hand. Finally, he pondered, "I finally accomplished my goal, but why do I feel so unhappy?" Naruto finally dropped his hand to the ground as he realized he couldn't shake this cold feeling running through his heart. Naruto's eyes gazed up at the bright blue sky above him. He watched as a lone bird traversed the sky. Naruto could barely make out its white shape as it glided aimlessly in the sky. Why can't I just be happy for once? Mused Naruto as he watched the bird finally fly out of his sight. 4 years had passed since the fourth great shinobi war. A pain shot through his right arm. Naruto ignored the pain as he was used to it. It always seemed to flare when he thought about the past. Yet he couldn't help but stop thinking about it. Those 4 years had gone so fast, and finally, Naruto was starting to realize just how much time he wasted. While being the Hokage was without a doubt his lifetime goal, he did not need to rush as he did. Naruto did not doubt that it may take up to another decade until Kakashi decided to hang up the hat. After all, there was no reason for him to do so. Kakashi had flawlessly taken up the mantle and made sure to secure the peace that they had managed to achieve after the Fourth Great Shinobi War. It was like an era never before seen in the history of the elemental nations. It wasn't a perfect era of peace, there were a few skirmishes here and there, but nothing that could lead to another great ninja war or animosity between the 5 great villages. Naruto recalled the last 4 years and the countless missions he conducted for his village. It was probably 100, maybe pushing 200 missions. Some were quick and easy missions, and others had him spending over a week hunting down S-rank missing nin. All that while being under the tutelage of Kakashi, as he helped maneuver Naruto towards the path of Hokage. Kakashi had warned about the pace he was working at and had urged him to take a break. Kakashi's advice was sound, but Naruto had brushed him off. Naruto couldn't quite recall why he had. Maybe it was the ambition behind his goal, or maybe it was to hide the grief he suffered in that war, the grief he had suffered all those years before. An ache settled in his heart. His heart began to beat faster and faster, and Naruto closed his eyes. Memories raced through his head as he recalled tragedy after tragedy. How many people had died for his sake? How many people had suffered? Naruto opened his eyes and took deep breaths as he tried to slow down his heartbeat. Naruto sat up and brought his knees up to his chest. Damn, why couldn't he just move on? Why couldn't he just move on like everyone else? Little over a year ago, Shikamaru married Temari. Meanwhile, Shikamaru's other 2 teammates were engaged. Ino was engaged to Sai and Chuji was engaged to Kari of the Hidden Cloud. Naruto grumbled, "How the hell is Sai gonna get married before me?" Naruto shook his head and brushed off the jealousy. "No, it's great that Sai is getting married. I'm glad that emotionless bastard finally learned, well, some emotions. Damn, even his 2 other teammates were married. Sakura and Sasuke didn't have a grand wedding, but they had wed quietly a few months ago." Naruto mused, "Even the damn emo." Naruto let out a sigh as he was pretty sure that Sakura was pregnant. He had sensed her chakra the other day, and Naruto could sense a flicker of life in her stomach. The only losers like himself were Team 8, but even if they weren't successful in their marital status, they all seemed happy at what they were doing. Kiba currently had several ninja nin shinobi under his wing, and was helping nurture them for the future of Konoha. Shino had taken up a post at the academy, and was currently teaching the future of Konoha. Hinata had taken a prominent role in the Hyuga clan and was on her way to changing many of the old and oppressive traditions. Hell, Kiba had told Naruto that she had begun the process of courting in her clan. No doubt due to pressure from her father, but Naruto was hopeful she would find someone wonderful. After all, Hinata was probably the sweetest person Naruto knew. All of his friends had found something to enrich their lives and just be happy. Then there was him. Naruto dropped his head. Sure, he had accomplished much in the past 4 years, but there was nothing for the long term besides his goal of becoming Hokage. Naruto had thought that being Hokage was all he wanted, but why couldn't he shake these feelings of emptiness? Before he could lament anymore, he sensed 2 people making a beeline toward his position. Naruto looked up in the direction they approached, and he watched as they came flying out of the tree line. Umbu Black OBs. The deadliest Konoha had to offer. Naruto smirked as he stared at the 2 in front of him. They both dressed in identical Konoha ANBU outfits, but their hair and size helped distinguish them. One of them was a young woman with long light brown hair. The other was an older man with spiky brown hair, and his age was more difficult to tell. Naruto then beamed, Hinoko! It's been so long since I've seen. Naruto was cut off as his hand snapped towards his face and caught a chakra in the form of a needle. Naruto laughed as he watched the female ANBU fume. Don't be saying my name, you dumbass! Roared Hinoko as she had her finger pointed out towards Naruto and her other hand on her extended elbow. The ANBU next to her gave an audible sigh at her partner's temper. The ANBU next to her then said, Hinoko, you need to work on your anger. You're an ANBU. I don't want to hear that from you, Ro. Hinoko spat. She then formed a hand seal and the chakra needle in Naruto's hand exploded. Naruto then also proceeded to explode. Hinoko took a step back away from the smoke in shock. Over here, shrimp! Taunted Naruto from behind. The two ANBU turned and they watched as Naruto finished packing up his materials. He then proceeded to seal them into a small book, which he quickly pocketed into the back of his pouch. Hinoko then stammered, How when did you make a shadow clone? You still need to work on your sensory ability, commented Naruto lamely as he walked towards the two ANBU. Hinoko proceeded to make a fist in frustration. Naruto offered the girl a smile, Don't fret, Hinoko. Sensory skills take years to develop. It's quite amazing how far you've come. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. But what do I expect from people like you? Prodigies have it so easy. Hinoko's mask hid her blushing face. The young girl opted to cross her arms and refuted, Funny coming from you, you were the most powerful shinobi at my age. Ah yes, that did happen, but I had so much help. I heard from Shikamaru you're mostly self-taught. Naruto then placed his hand on Hinoko's head, Take a break. Go on vacation or something. When you come back I'll pass on some of my teachings. Maybe with that, you can catch up. Hinoko growled at Naruto's action. She moved to swat Naruto's hand away, but he seemed to disappear into thin air. Hinoko's hand slapped the air and she grumbled, That damn fool, when is he gonna stop treating me like a child? I'm 16! Ro ignored his ANBU partner and merely sighed, We didn't even tell him why we were here. Yo! Kakashi groaned as he felt a breeze run through his office. He stopped typing on his keyboard and turned towards the window. Naruto sat leaning against the side of the window smiling at him. Kakashi then asked, Where are Soku and Ro? I left the firecracker and her leash behind, announced Naruto as he sat on the window's ledge. Naruto then muttered, Maybe give the poor girl a break, Kakashi. I think a mandatory vacation is best for her. Or maybe cut her from the ANBU for a bit. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at Naruto's suggestion. Kakashi then huffed, Rich coming from a workaholic like yourself. Naruto said nothing for a moment. He just gazed out of the window. His beautiful village was the sight before him. Naruto watched below as people walked down the bustling road. Some people were on a casual walk, while others were rushing to work. I'm serious, maintained Naruto. Kakashi dropped his hand at the change in Naruto's tone. Naruto then pointed out, I've learned a thing or two from you, about managing shinobi. Hinoko will be an important shinobi in the future. Whether I am Hokage or not in the future, I know she will be tasked with an important role in this village. Predicted Naruto as he continued to stare into the village she has lived her whole life in the ANBU. How can she ever appreciate life and those she protects if she doesn't get a chance to live it? What about you? I could say those same things to you, remarked Kakashi as he leaned back into his chair. Naruto smirked as he chuckled, If we're gonna play point the finger, then just know my little finger knows who to pick next. Kakashi rolled his eyes quite annoyed. Hinoko doesn't need to work herself to death like you and me, decided Naruto. Naruto then finally slid off the window's ledge and landed on his feet. She needs to live a little. Get out there, maybe a genin team or maybe find someone nice for her. I was gonna give you a mission, but now you have me wanting to send you to a therapist, stated Kakashi with a bit of concern in his voice. Naruto sighed as he sat in the chair in front of Kakashi. Naruto then mumbled, I don't need no damn therapist. Sure sounds like it. Naruto rolled his eyes and put his hand on his heart as if Kakashi had offended him. He then cried, It is so crazy for me to be concerned for my fellow shinobi, that I'd be sent to the shrink. Kakashi said nothing. He eyes Naruto carefully and he thought, There he goes again, hiding behind his humor. Maybe Ino was right about sending Naruto for a psychological checkup. Kakashi had been concerned for Naruto for the past couple of months. Kakashi had been his sensei for almost 10 years now, and he knew his student like the back of his hand. Something had changed in him ever since Sakura and Sasuke had gotten married. At first, Kakashi thought maybe he felt jealous of Sasuke. Naruto had once been in love with Sakura, but he had been the one to set the two up. Kakashi had an idea or two about what it could be. An orphan with a traumatic past and upbringing who would rather bury their feelings in work and have those repressed feelings resurface years later. Kakashi blinked as he began to realize how similar Naruto and he was. Maybe I'll give him a genin team. Kakashi! Nearly screamed Naruto as he broke Kakashi out of his thoughts. Naruto then crossed his arms. So? What do you think? I make some pretty good decisions for the welfare of my shinobi. Pretty Hokage material if you asked me, gloated Naruto as Kakashi could swear he could see his eyes sparkle with pride. Kakashi just sighed. I'll admit it has some merit, so I'll give it some thought. Naruto beamed with a smile. Kakashi couldn't help but smile. There's the Naruto I know. The reason I called you today is that I have an important mission for you, revealed Kakashi as he changed the conversation. Naruto sat a little straighter at Kakashi's shift in tone. Kakashi then cleared his throat and said, as you know, these couple of years, I've been giving you missions to help with your development towards Hokage. I come with you with a very important mission. You'll be conducting a mission based on espionage. Naruto rolled his eyes as he chuckled. I'm gonna be some type of spy. Yup. Are you serious? Naruto paused for a second as he could see Kakashi's eyes smile back at him. Naruto then pondered, how exactly? The only way to suppress my chakra is through Sage Mode, but even that is risky. Well, you won't be taking any secret identity, but you'll be acting as an ambassador for the village hidden in the leaf, answered Kakashi. Kakashi continued, I thought this would be a great opportunity to work on your diplomacy as well as use the opportunity to appreciate the roles of the shinobi you will one day manage. I can't imagine many places where I would be needed to spy on, contemplated Naruto with interest. Kakashi then asked, have you heard of Westalis and Ostania? Bits and pieces. Well, these two countries are found across the ocean on the western continent. They are two countries that have erupted into superpowers the past decade, disclosed Kakashi, and he then pointed at his computer. They are both countries of much technology and are the reason we have advanced our own. Peace between Ostania and Westalis is quite fragile, noted Kakashi as he reached down into his desk. He pulled a scroll slightly bigger than his hand could hold and tossed it to Naruto. Naruto caught the scroll effortlessly. Before the Fourth Great Shinobi War, Tsunade had made it a priority to develop relationships with Westalis. I have continued to do so. Westalis has an organization known as Westalis Intelligence Services, an intelligence organization that probably rivals our ANBU Black Ops, admitted Kakashi grudgingly. Naruto gave Kakashi an empathetic smile as he knew how much Kakashi cared about his ANBU Black Ops. They are very concerned about a political party in Ostania, the National Unity Party. Let me guess they aren't quite happy with the status quo, quipped Naruto, quite annoyed. Things aren't so different even on the other side of the world. Unfortunately, that is an accurate guess, lamented Kakashi, as he brought his hands together to rest his chin on top of them. Westalis and Ostania have been warring for generations. During Tsunade's reign as Hokage, Westalis and Ostania had finally managed to come to peace. It's been almost 6 years since their last major conflict. However, just because conventional warfare has stopped being waged, doesn't mean all the fighting has stopped. Informed Kakashi cryptically, a different type of war is being waged between the two countries, the one that includes their economies, weapon development, and intelligence. Sounds quite similar to what happened after the conclusion of the Third Great Shinobi War, pointed out Naruto as he crossed his arms. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Kakashi then added, unlike us, they have made great strides in ensuring another war does not occur. Currently, there is a major roadblock. National Unity Party, answered Naruto as if he just got the numbers to the lottery. Naruto then mocked, do I get a prize for coming up with the right answer? Kakashi ignored Naruto's comment and continued, yes, the National Unity Party, and more specifically their leader, Donovan Desmond. I can't give you specifics as wise. Kakashi paused for a second. The Westalis intelligence services I was telling you about was only able to send so much information without raising suspicion about our relationship. Kakashi then revealed they have requested that you would be willing to aid them in trying to gather information on Donovan Desmond. How exactly am I supposed to do that? Questioned Naruto as he twirled the scroll in his hands. Kakashi shrugs his shoulders. As I said, they weren't able to give all the information about the mission, but they wanted to use your status to help infiltrate the higher ranks. Even in Astania, the name Naruto Uzumaki carries power, quoted Kakashi as he read off a paper on the side of his desk. Kakashi then theorized, as an ambassador, you will have access to many political sites and even the opportunity to meet with the National Unity Party. Naruto sighed as he let his head hang from the back of his chair. He then pondered out loud, sounds like a pain in the ass. How long exactly is this mission supposed to last? They didn't say, but I would think 1 to 2 years. What? Yelped Naruto as he jumped up from his chair. He slammed his hands onto Kakashi's desk and then scoffed. I don't want to be away for the village that long. Kakashi's eyes hardened at Naruto's refusal and Naruto relaxed his arms at Kakashi's change in demeanor. Kakashi calmly replied, as Hokage, you will one day be sending shinobi on these types of missions. You will ask your shinobi to leave their homes for months and even years at a time. Some will never see the home they left to protect. You dare to tell me you can't do the same? The words stung Naruto hard as he fell back into the chair. Naruto's gaze just shifted to the ground like a child who had just been lectured by their parents. Naruto then conceded, fine, I'll do the mission. I know you don't like being away from the village for long, but take this as an opportunity. Offered Kakashi as his tone shifted back to his usual self. Live a little, maybe find a student, or maybe find someone nice for yourself. Naruto nearly tossed the scroll into Kakashi's face, then he yelled, you idiot. Those were my words. Kakashi chuckled at Naruto's rage. I was just joking, Naruto, but you'll learn a lot from this. About diplomacy and the intricacies of our finer shinobi arts, stated Kakashi with confidence. Naruto couldn't remember ever being so annoyed with Kakashi. You'll have 2 weeks until you are to depart to Astania. You are to memorize all the information in the scroll as it contains all the information you need to know, announced Kakashi as he then dug for a book underneath his desk. He pulled out a large, black-covered book that was covered in dust. Kakashi brushed off the dust and handed it to Naruto, NBU Black Ops Manual on our covert communications system. In case you ever need their help or end up doing work with them. Naruto plucked the book off Kakashi's desk and just grumbled. Why do I have the feeling this is gonna be a pain in the ass? Naruto was currently making his way through the countryside of Astania. It reminded Naruto of the land of grass. It was a lot of long grassy plains that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was mostly inhabited by farmers who worked hard to make a living. However, just like the land of grass, they had been rampaged by wars, and Naruto could sense their distaste for foreigners. Naruto had disguised the clone to venture a bit, and their distaste for him was quite obvious. Naruto was currently standing in an empty field in the middle of nowhere. He was to meet with an agent codenamed Twilight for a briefing on his mission. He would be aiding him in the special mission that Wise had for him. Once he was briefed, Naruto would backtrack to the port of Astania and act as if he just arrived in Astania. He would then be escorted to the capital city, Berlin, by Astania officials. Naruto did not like the obscurity behind his mission. However, just like Kakashi had said, it was often the case with these types of missions. Naruto wondered how Sasuke had spent the better of the last 4 years doing this type of work. Speaking of the bastard, he hadn't had a chance to say goodbye to him, or any of his friends. Naruto had hoped to spend one last night before he left, but he was stuck memorizing all the information for his mission. Naruto gripped his fist in frustration. That bastard Kakashi could have warned me how much information was packed into that scroll. In his typical fashion, he pushed off reading the scroll till his second week and was stuck indoors with his shadow clones trying to memorize everything. Naruto then sighed, as it was probably for the best. After all, it was an S-rank mission. It would cause suspicion if he suddenly said goodbye like that to his friends. Naruto perked up at the sound of an engine in the distance. Now that was something Naruto would never get over seeing. Automobiles were common in this country and Naruto was quite fascinated by them. He watched as the car continued its track until it came within a few meters of him. The car came to a halt, and the engine quickly died. Silence filled the air as Naruto couldn't see who was inside the car due to its dark tint. However, Naruto could sense two people inside the car. That's when he sensed it. He could only describe it as a bright-colored chakra that was bubbling with energy. It was so clean and pure that Naruto knew it could only come from one type of source. Click. The doors of the car opened. Chapter 2. The Spy Known as Twilight. In Ostania, there is a man feared by all. A spy known as Twilight has terrorized Ostania officials as he has managed to stay a step ahead of them for over a decade. No doubt a crucial player in maintaining the delicate peace between Ostania and Westalis. Anya had never met a shinobi. Anya was giddy at the prospect of meeting one. The super spy was taking her to him so that he may be her dad and help save the world. Anya gazed out the window of the car she currently was in and imagined all the people she and her new dad would save. Are we almost there yet? As I said a few minutes ago, we're about 5 minutes out, answered Twilight, the blonde-haired spy, who drove the car. He was currently dressed in a dark blazer with matching pants. His hair was nicely combed back to match the description of his current alias, Lloyd Forger, a psychiatrist at Belint General Hospital. But what if we're late and my new dad is gone? Pointed out Anya with concern in her voice. Twilight felt a pang of guilt in his heart. He felt bad for using this girl, but it was for the success of this important mission. Don't worry, your new father is very excited to meet you. I doubt he'll move an inch from his spot until we get there. Lied Twilight effortlessly. Twilight then thought to himself, to be honest, I'm also looking forward to meeting this man. Anya's ears perked up as she peered into the mind of Twilight. Anya had a special ability. She was gifted with the ability to read minds. She was a telepath. Anya had used her skills to trick Twilight into picking her for this important mission. Twilight had appeared at Anya's orphanage looking for a brilliant kid to adopt. The man who fought a literal god. Thought Twilight as Anya continued to listen. They say he can destroy a mountain with a flick of his wrist. I wonder what type of monster I will be meeting. Anya nearly jumped out of her seat as she began to envision a giant monster with razor-sharp teeth. Anya was about to protest this new father when the car came to a halt. Twilight then announced, "We're here." I really don't want a new dad. Twilight turned in a bit of shock as he turned to face the girl. Twilight then fumed silently, this child, she's so... It's a little too late, come on, let's go meet your new father. Before she knew it, Anya had been pulled out of her seat, and Twilight had stepped out of the car. Anya didn't get a chance to argue before she was set on the ground. That's when she faced him. You must be Twilight. Delta 5, Romeo 3, Alpha 7, responded Twilight sternly. Twilight eyed the man in front of him carefully. Naruto was currently dressed in his Jonin attire. He wore a dark green flak jacket, and underneath he wore a dark blue long-sleeve shirt and blue pants. A pair of blue sandals rose above his ankles. Naruto nodded and replied, Alpha 8, Romeo 4, Delta 6. Yes, I am Twilight. Finally answered the blonde-haired spy. Naruto nodded and he extended his hand out. Naruto Uzumaki, a pleasure to meet you. Twilight eyed Naruto's hand carefully before reaching it and giving him a handshake. Twilight thought silently, he's not what I imagined he would look like. Twilight gazed at Naruto's unruly and spiky hair as it danced with the wind. Anya, who had been hiding behind Twilight's leg, couldn't help but agree. Anya pondered silently, this is the super ninja? Why do you have a kid with you? Asked Naruto with curiosity in his voice. Anya jumped at her mention, and before Twilight she stepped forward. I'm Anya, and it's nice to meet you, Papa. Naruto froze in his spot and for a moment an awkward silence filled the air. Did she just call me Papa? Damn it, Anya, you jumped the gun. Twilight's eyes darted between Anya and Naruto. Anya felt a bit self-conscious as she stood there quite awkwardly. Anya then turned her head and asked, "You're gonna be my new papa?" Answers, "No." Naruto's eyes turned stone cold as he directed his gaze toward Twilight. Twilight resisted the urge to shudder as he could feel the power behind Naruto's gaze. Not in front of the girl. Anya didn't get a chance to read Naruto's mind before she felt dizzy. Then the world just went black. Lloyd watched as Naruto practically teleported in front of Anya and caught the young girl. Naruto looked down at the child. She was a very young girl. If Naruto had to guess, she was probably 4 or 5 years old. Her pink hair reminded Naruto of Sakura's hair. Except that this girl wore 2 black hair ornaments with bright yellow embellishments resembling small horns on the sides of her head. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Naruto, quite annoyed. Twilight took a step back and took a deep breath. He had to handle this carefully. After all, he wouldn't wish this mission even on his worst enemies. "Operation Strix," answered Twilight as he ran his fingers through his hair. "It's an operation that requires you to have a child to infiltrate Eden Academy." "Eden Academy, the prestigious school of Ostania?" questioned Naruto as he recalled the information from his notes. "Why would I need to infiltrate that?" "Eden Academy is the only place where Donovan Desmond regularly visits," revealed Twilight. "He is your true target. I'm sure you've been made aware of him." Naruto sighed as he recognized the name. Twilight continued, "There is a special event held twice a year for current students or former alumni that have achieved elite status in the school. A prestigious title is given only to the elite of the school, Imperial Sabers." Twilight then continued, "Getting an application into Eden Academy alone is very difficult as they only consider students from affluent families or extremely intelligent children. Naruto Uzumaki is without a doubt the most famous person in the world. Even here in Ostania, your name is renowned and known by all," concluded Twilight coolly. Naruto looked down at the child he held in his hands. She slept so peacefully, even if she had fallen to Naruto's seal. Naruto gritted his teeth as he protested, "But to include a child?" "I'll admit I also do not like the idea," agreed Twilight with a bit of shame in his voice, "but if it's what we must do for peace, it is what we must do." Naruto said nothing as he understood where Twilight was coming from. He did not need to know his story to understand what he meant. Naruto had seen the stuff people would do in the name of peace. At what point do the means justify the end? "If there is any good out of this child is an orphan," pointed out Twilight. "If we hadn't adopted her today, she may have spent the rest of her days going from orphanage to orphanage." Anya Williams. Anya Levski. Anya Roche. Naruto closed his eyes and his expression went blank. He blew air out of his nose as he felt a sharp pain at the front of his skull. Twilight continued, "Those are the 3 surnames of the 3 families she has been a part of and 3 families that have abandoned her." "I'll make you a deal," bargained Twilight as he put his hand up to his heart. "I promise if you take this girl as a part of this mission, after our time together I will make sure to take care of this girl. I'll reward her with a real family." Twilight cursed internally. Twilight knew how much of a hassle that could turn out to be, but he could tell the type of man Naruto was. From what he'd read in his report, and his reaction to Anya being a part of the mission, he knew he was a man of honor. People in their profession had no place for such a thing. Naruto remained kneeling as he considered Twilight's actions. Twilight looked over at Naruto awaiting his answer. Twilight then thought, yet, a man like him can force his ideals in whatever situation he likes. After all, he is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto looked up at Twilight, and he kept his expression neutral. Naruto scoffed silently. "They would probably raise her to be a spy. I wonder what life she will live after I leave. I will be inviting her to the endless cycle that is war." However, if he was to abandon this mission due to these circumstances, he would strain the relationship between Konoha and Westalis. This girl would likely end up in the same cycle where she came from. At the minimum, he could ensure this girl's future by having her attend this Eden Academy. Maybe his fame could at least bring joy to someone who needs it. Naruto's eyes fell back on the girl. He knew if he took this girl as his daughter, he feared it would become a permanent thing. Naruto was no longer the short-sighted brat he used to be and could see how this little mission could quickly get out of hand. All it took was for one shinobi to recognize who he was and who she was. Yet, this was an important mission. Kakashi had told him about the sacrifices that would be done for the sake of the village. Naruto cursed Kakashi silently. I told him espionage has never been my cup of tea. Yet this was what it took to be Hokage. To make the choices and sacrifices others wouldn't, for the sake of the village. Alright, you have a deal. I will continue this mission and pretend to be this child's father, conceded Naruto as he stood up to his feet with Anya in his hands. Twilight let out a sigh of relief. Naruto, seeing Twilight relaxed, then added, Now, I'm assuming you'll be my point of contact during the duration of this mission. Twilight nodded and he motioned Naruto to follow him. They walked towards the back of Twilight's car, where he popped the trunk open. Inside was a briefcase and he began to explain, the suitcase is filled with clothes for the girl. After that, it would be suspicious if showed up with no belongings. Here. Twilight then began to trace the spine of the suitcase. Are a series of storage seals containing the equipment we have provided plus information and mission briefing. I will also be in Berlin acting under the alias, Lloyd Forger, a psychiatrist at Berlin General Hospital, informed Lloyd as he pulled the suitcase and placed it on the ground. I will be conducting other operations for Wise, but also be acting as your contact. Naruto nodded and he reached down to grab the suitcase. Carefully holding Anya in his right arm, he picked up the suitcase and swung it over his shoulder. Naruto then asked, We're on a tight timeline, so I'm hoping all the important information I need will be in my suitcase. We'll meet again once you're in Ostania. Nodded Twilight as he closed the trunk. It's best if you refer to me as Lloyd Forger the next time we meet. Naruto nodded. The air around him began to shimmer, and he quickly disappeared out of sight. Lloyd whistled as he turned his head to look around him. The Shunshin Jutsu, a shinobi jutsu that allows the user to move rapidly between short or long distances. Lloyd finally took a deep breath. He wondered how this next mission would pan out. He'd seen shinobi work in the past, and even had to go up against them, and every time it was a huge pain in the ass. It'll be interesting to see if this ridiculous operation pans out. I don't understand how something like this ever came to fruition. Lloyd turned towards the driver's side of his car and made his way to the door. Thankfully, that is something above my pay grade. Naruto currently sat in a private train car. Naruto had managed to sneak aboard the ship that was supposed to be transporting him across the ocean separating the elemental nations and western continent. The ANBU Black Ops assigned to his detail were no doubt shocked about Naruto appearing with Anya in his hands. Naruto sighed in relief as he was glad it was the ANBU as his detail, and they were sworn to secrecy. Otherwise, Naruto shuddered as he wondered what would happen if word got out that he secretly had a daughter. Sure, it wasn't true, but Naruto had committed to the role and informed the ANBU who she was. After that, they quickly deboarded the boat, and Naruto with Anya in his arms boarded the train that would take them to Berlin. Now Naruto sat in this fancy train car with Anya resting to his right, and a bunch of papers scattered to his left. Across him sat a clone who was currently in sage mode tracking anyone who came near. Naruto read the papers in front of him as he read up on his mission. He hated to admit it, but Wise had come up with a perfect cover story. Naruto made a mental note to send Kakashi a message later to inform him about Wise. They were far more capable than either he or Kakashi could imagine. After all, a lot of this information he wasn't even sure how they managed to access it. At that moment, he heard a small groan and he felt the small body next to him begin to stir. Anya pushed herself up as she rubbed her eyes. Anya then muttered, "Where am I?" "Yo!" Anya turned up to look at Naruto, and her eyes blinked as she tried to remember what happened. Anya then turned to look across her, and she jolted awake as she saw another Naruto. Anya then jumped up on her feet and pointed at both Naruto. "There's two of you." "Oh right," muttered Naruto out loud as he remembered this girl had probably never witnessed ninjutsu in her life. Naruto then offered her an explanation. "That's my shadow clone. I used my ninjutsu to create a clone of myself." "Whoa!" beamed Anya as her eyes formed stars. "Ninja magic." "Not quite." chuckled Naruto as he wondered if it was worth explaining to her. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. At least she's not mad I knocked her out earlier. Anya had heard Naruto's inner monologue and everything came rushing back. She then yelped, "Wait a minute. What happened to the super spy?" "Oh, you knew Twilight was a spy," discovered Naruto as he crossed his arms. "That idiot, this complicates things." Anya felt a surge of panic as she berated herself. "Oh no. I messed up." Then to Naruto's horror, he watched as Anya's eyes began to swell up and ready to burst with tears. Anya then managed to choke out, "It's just..." "What do I say?" Tears began to stream down Anya's eyes as she tried to come up with something. "He's gonna send me away. I wasn't supposed to know about the super spy." "Stupid, stupid! No one ever wants Anya," cried Anya as tears continued to pour down her cheeks. "I knew he wanted me for how smart I am, but no one ever wants me for that. People don't like Anya's smarts." Naruto froze as he didn't know what to do. The girl had burst into tears, and to be honest, he was never taught how to deal with children. Naruto never had any family and never had children he had to take care of. Naruto then recalled what Twilight had told him: Anya Williams, Anya Levski, Anya Roche. "She's just like me," realized Naruto as the thought triggered many memories. Anya, who had been crying, stopped as the words echoed through her head. Anya could suddenly see a blonde child swinging all alone on a swing set. People walked all around him, and she could hear their taunts. "It's him. The demon brat. Why can't he just leave the village? Why does the Hokage make us suffer with his presence?" Anya was ripped out of Naruto's thoughts as a pair of arms wrapped around her. Naruto pulled her close and into his chest. Anya couldn't remember the last time anyone had held her like that. His grip was strong, but caring at the same time. "It's okay, little one. I won't be leaving you." Anya looked up and was surprised to see Naruto's face. He had such a warm smile. That's when she noticed it. "Eh?" blurted Anya as she took a hard glance at Naruto's face. Upon closer inspection, she noticed the whisker marks on Naruto's face. Anya then asked, "Are you a cat?" Naruto gave Anya a ridiculous look, and he burst into laughter. Naruto let go of Anya and then he answered her, "No, they are birthmarks I was born with." Naruto could see the girl's curiosity had distracted her from the previous moment, and he pounced on the moment. "Let me introduce myself." Naruto reached his arm out and Anya watched in fascination as he hung it out to her. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," stated Naruto as he gave Anya a beaming smile. "I love ramen. Even more when it's shared with my friends. I don't like the 3 minutes it takes to cook cup ramen. One day my goal is to be the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village." Anya was enamored by the weird introduction, but she giggled at Naruto. She quickly grabbed onto Naruto's hand and shook it widely. "My name is Anya. Any. I love peanuts," exclaimed Anya with joy. "I also love spy and ninja movies." Anya's expression changed to one completely void of life as she added, "I hate school." Naruto nearly fell forward at the sound of that. "One day I want to be a super duper cool spy," announced Anya as she gave Naruto a smirk. Naruto gave a nervous laugh as he realized why the girl had gone along with Twilight even though she knew he was a spy. Naruto flicked his wrist up to his face to rub his forehead from the headache that was beginning to resurface. Before Naruto could say anything, Anya jumped back in terror. "Ah!" shrieked Anya as she ducked to the side of Naruto's wrists. Naruto raised an eyebrow in confusion and Anya yelled out loud, "Be careful with those. You could have killed me." "What?" "Super Spy said that you can destroy a mountain with the flick of your wrists." Naruto's eyebrow twitched. What the hell did Twilight tell her about me? Was he trying to scare her into this? Pondered Naruto as his expression changed into a dark one. "It's been a while since I've had to kill someone." Anya shrieked internally as she realized Naruto might kill the super spy. Anya then added, "Well, actually he didn't tell me, but he was talking out loud about you when he thought I was sleeping." "I see," lamely stated Naruto as he felt a bit better about that. Naruto then gazed over at Anya, and he thought, it'd probably be best if she knew. It might compromise the mission, but it'd be easier than trying to keep it a secret from her. Anya perked up as she realized she wasn't gonna be kicked to the curb. She couldn't help but make the smile as Naruto began to talk. As you probably already guessed, we need you for an important mission, Anya. Just to make things simple, we need you to pretend to be my daughter so that I can enroll you into Eden Academy. Explained Naruto as he sat back into his seat. There is a man whose children attend the academy, and I need to get close to that man. I'll spare the details, but this man may be involved with some very bad people. Justified Naruto as he hoped this was enough for the girl. I need to know what he's up to in order to maintain the peace between these two nations. All I need you is to try your very best and do well in this school. Anya froze in terror as she realized what she would need to do. If you do well, we may get a chance to confront this evil villain. Anya's eyes sparkled at the sound of Naruto's tone. Naruto felt a tad guilty about manipulating the girl's life, but Anya was by far happy with what was going on. Before Anya could get any ideas, Naruto put his finger up. However, I have my conditions. Naruto put one finger up and said, do not make any attempt to ever try to get close to this individual. Naruto raised a second finger. If there is ever a sign of trouble, I want you to run away, and if you're able to let me know immediately. Naruto raised the third. If you ever feel like this is too much, just let me know. You can stop doing this whenever you want. I will do everything in my power to keep you safe, Anya, proclaimed Naruto as he pounded his chest. His confidence filled the room and Anya couldn't help but admire Naruto. Anya giggled as she nodded, I promise. Naruto held his hand forward and put his pinky up. Anya looked confused and Naruto then explained, in my country, you interlock pinkies when you make a promise. It's called a pinky promise, and it's the most powerful of promises. They say you get eaten by a giant snake if you break one. Anya looked at Naruto in awe, having never heard of such things, but the girl quickly intertwined her pinkies with Naruto. Naruto then silently promised, I promise I won't ever allow anything to happen to this girl. It's the least I can do. Anya couldn't help but smile as she heard Naruto's promise. Anya then let go, and then she demanded to know, so what is my code name? I have to have a secret name. Of course, agreed Naruto as he couldn't help but smile at the child's antics. Naruto put his finger up to his chin as he pondered out loud, in my country, our ANBU used animals as call signs. My sensei's call sign was a dog. Oichich, I want to be a penguin, stated Anya as she jumped up in joy and then proclaimed, I'll be Agent Penguin. Naruto nodded in agreement, that sounds fantastic. What about you, Papa? Naruto froze at what Anya had called him. Naruto repeated, did she call me Papa? Naruto paused as he did tell Anya he needed her to be his daughter, but he didn't think she would be so on board so quickly to call him Papa. Anya's excitement died for a second as she couldn't tell if she had angered Naruto. Geez, it's so weird hearing those words, but I suppose that's what we are now. Naruto gave a soft smile as he came to his answer quickly, I'll be Agent Fox. Anya smiled at Naruto's answer, and her excitement was reborn. She then frantically exclaimed, Agent Fox and Agent Penguin reporting for Operation Strix. Blurted out Naruto as he stared at Anya in shock, how did she know that? I did it again. Anya quickly rubbed the back of her head and pointed at the paperwork to Naruto's side, that's what it says on the paper, right, Papa? Naruto's eyes bulged out of his eyes as he realized he had left his folders open for Anya to read. Naruto quickly folded them as he embarrassedly admitted, can't put one past you, Agent Penguin. Anya beamed. So, what are we doing first, Papa? They were currently exiting the train station and began to make their way toward the street. Naruto held onto Anya's hand as they made the short walk. In Naruto's right hand, he carried the suitcase he had been given by Lloyd. A giant scroll was strapped diagonally across his back. Naruto informed her, we first need to go to the apartment that has been picked out for us by the Shinobi Union Embassy. We'll settle in before we do anything major. Anya nodded and she began to absorb the sights around her. She'd never been to Berlin before. Naruto had managed to flag down a taxi. Naruto put his belongings into the trunk of the car and entered the cab alongside Anya. Naruto was greeted by an older gentleman with dark hair. He had dark skin and a few wrinkles on his forehead. Naruto greeted the old man. "Hello, sir. Would you mind taking us to this address?" Naruto handed the man a piece of paper and suddenly felt a jolt run through his body as he handed the man the paper. "This chakra." Naruto leaned back in his chair and gave the man a slight glare. Naruto nearly growled, "I hope you have a good reason for your deception, Lloyd." The old man froze. Anya's eyes widened as her powers alerted her to the thoughts of Twilight. "The super spy is here?" "He's good, really fucking good." Lloyd's eyes carefully glanced into the rear mirror and made eye contact with Naruto. "My apologies, Naruto. I thought it'd be best if I were the one to escort you," reasoned Lloyd as he then glanced at Anya a bit worryingly. Naruto watched his gaze and revealed, "She knows. You were sloppy." Anya felt a shudder go down her spine as Lloyd's mind raced. "What? How did she know? Was I too lax with her? Damn it, you are looking bad in front of your allies." "This is what happens when you underestimate gifted children," remarked Naruto teasingly. "Let's just keep this between us for now, no need for Konoha and Wise to know." Lloyd said nothing as he just continued to drive. Naruto added, "After all, Anya and I have a deal, isn't that right, Agent Penguin?" Anya felt her chest swell with pride and she zealously replied, "Of course, Agent Fox." Lloyd nearly crashed and managed to sway out of the way of traffic. Anya seemed to float into the air as she was not wearing her seatbelt. Naruto plucked Anya out of the air before she could go tumbling into the window. "Put on your seatbelt," lectured Naruto as he sat the girl down. Anya gave a sheepish smile and quickly put it on. Lloyd then looked up at Naruto with great concern. "Are you fucking serious?" Naruto. "Do not worry, Lloyd, I know what I am doing," reassured Naruto as he gave a slight yawn and began to look outside the window. Lloyd said nothing as he realized he was at fault for lowering his guard around Anya. "We could always just replace the girl with another," mused Lloyd as he continued on his drive. Anya looked over at Lloyd in panic. "But I doubt he'll go along with it. I'll trust his judgment for now." Anya relaxed as she shifted her focus to her papa. "I wonder if they sell good ramen here?" Anya giggled at her father's thoughts. He really loved ramen. Anya put her finger to her chin. "I wonder if they sell good peanuts here?" "Whoa!" gushed Anya as she ran into their new apartment. Naruto whistled in agreement. It was a very nice apartment they have been given. No doubt from the influence of Wise, but also his reputation. It was already furnished and had a nice kitchen stocked with utensils and accessories. Anya raced into the living room and looked elated. She gazed around the entire room and bounced around like the ball of energy she was. Anya rushed Naruto at blinding speeds and latched herself onto Naruto's left arm. "We need to explore the rest of the apartment," declared Anya as she dragged Naruto through the rest of the apartment. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, which surprised Naruto. More than likely, Wise had prepared for Anya's arrival and had given him 2 plus a spare for guests. "These rooms are lame. I don't know which one to pick," mused Anya as she crossed her arms in the middle of the small hallway where all the bedrooms were. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and pointed at the smaller bedroom with the twin-size bed and desk. "I think that one is yours." Anya dramatically fell to her knees and deadpanned. "It's so lame." "It is quite dry," noted Naruto as he stared at the white-colored walls. Naruto thought hard. You're supposed to allow a child to express themselves, so it's important to let them decorate their room? Anya peeked behind her and looked up at Naruto. Naruto slammed his fist into his palm. "That must be it. How about we stop by a hardware store and buy some paint to make this room?" Anya approved. Offered Naruto with a smile. "Maybe we can buy some posters if we can find any." "I want my room to be pink," demanded Anya as she flailed her arms everywhere. Naruto nodded in approval. "Alright, let's go." Naruto paused as he remembered he needed to unpack his stuff and Anya's. Naruto brought his hands up and crossed the index fingers on his opposing hands. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 3 Narutos burst into life and Naruto then barked, "Unpack our stuff and secure the apartment." YOSH. As the 3 shadow clones rushed away to do their tasks, Anya jumped into the same stance as Naruto and mimicked his hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Anya then quickly looked to both of her sides but looked disappointed when nothing happened. Naruto suppressed a smile. You'll need to do a lot of training and a lot of chakra before you can ever do that jutsu. Dang it! Muttered Anya dejectedly, and her shoulders slumped forward. I want cool clones to do all my work. Don't worry, Anya, I'll teach you some basics sometime later, offered Naruto as consolation. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. Yes, it will be important for her to know the basics about chakra and ninjutsu. After all, she is my child. It would be expected at the very minimum she knows the fundamentals, concluded Naruto as he needed to sell that Anya was his daughter. Anya almost failed to suppress a squeal. I'm gonna be a ninja spy. Anya couldn't believe how much her life had changed in the past few days. Naruto then held out his right hand. Time to go, little one. Anya grabbed Naruto's hand, and that's when she noticed the bandages. Anya tilted her hand and asked, Papa, what's wrong with your hand? My hand? Repeated Naruto as he looked down at his right arm. That was right, it's a prosthetic. My best friend blew it off when we fought a couple of years ago. Anya gulped as she imagined a dark-haired man blowing up Naruto's hand. Naruto then smirked, but I blew up his hand too. Kind of a memento we now share. Anya doesn't want friends. Anya's terrified gaze looked down at her hands. Naruto squatted down and came down to Anya's level. Don't say that, Anya. Friends are important, especially for people like you and me. The world can be a very lonely place, and having friends can make it so much more fun. Lectured Naruto as his eyes seemed to sparkle for a moment. You don't have to make a lot of friends, just a few are fine. Just make sure they're good people, people you can trust. An adventure is so much better when you do it with a friend. Smiled Naruto as many people began to flash through his mind. Anya was silent as she processed Naruto's words. Naruto held onto Anya's hand. I was an orphan like you, Anya. I didn't have any friends growing up, and to be honest, I was often so mad at the world. Anya could see the swing on which a young Naruto was on again. All alone and all sad. Anya pursed her lips. Papa really likes to go swinging. My friends made life so much better, and as I said, it makes the adventures so much more fun, repeated Naruto as he tried to get his point across. Anya nodded and she looked up at Naruto with her large green eyes. Is Papa my friend? Of course. Then Anya has one friend, good enough. Naruto nearly fell forward at Anya's refusal of making friends. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. She's only a child, she'll learn eventually. Alright, let's get going, said Naruto in defeat. All finished, announced Anya as she wiped her hands together. Pink paint was splattered across Anya's clothes and a bit had gotten on her face. Naruto's eyes twitched as he looked at Anya's finished work. She dragged her brush in the shape of a penguin and splattered paint above it as she couldn't reach it. You didn't even do it right! Shrieked Naruto as he pointed at the wall. Anya looked at her masterpiece and smirked, looked stunned to Anya. You're supposed to paint the entire wall, so you can no longer see the white wall. Sighed Naruto as he watched Anya bring her hand up to her chin. She thought for a moment, that's how you're supposed to do it. That sounds like too much work. Anya nodded as she began to walk out of the room. I am hungry. We need to finish painting first, Anya. Have the ninja clones do it, answered Anya. She gave Naruto a smug smile as she had given him such an amazing idea. Naruto sighed, this child. Growl. The sound of Anya's stomach growling brought Naruto's attention back to Anya. Naruto was getting a bit tired of this girl playing him like a fiddle. I need to learn more about parenting. Naruto formed his signature jutsu and 3 more shadow clones came to life. Naruto handed his paint roller to one of the clones and followed Anya toward the kitchen. As soon as they left the room, one of the clones made their exit out the bedroom window and off to the local library. Naruto then spent the next hour preparing a meal for Anya. Anya had tried to help Naruto with the meal but only made more work for Naruto. Taking longer than usual, he finally finished his dish. Anya beamed down at Naruto's omuris. It was a traditional dish that he'd learned in Konoha. It was an omelette in the shape of a large oval and was sitting on top of a dish of rice. Anya watched in fascination as Naruto split the top of the omelet with a knife, and the omelet opened up like a flower blooming. It's running inside, spread out, and covered with the rice dish. Anya then asked, "Papa, what is this?" "Omuris, it's like a rice omelet," answered Naruto as he sat across Anya. "Kakashi tricked me into those cooking classes a few years back. I guess he was right about them coming in handy." Naruto gave a soft smile, more like he was hoping it'd fix my poor diet. Anya ignored Naruto's thought and quickly grabbed her fork. Naruto grabbed her hand before he stabbed the food, and Naruto informed her, "You need to say itadakimasu before you start eating." Anya looked confused. Naruto quickly realized it must not be a custom in this country, but he then put his hands together. "You're supposed to give thanks before you start eating. It's a polite thing to do." "Itadakimasu," announced Naruto as he gave a slight bow to his food. Anya nodded and she mimicked Naruto, "Itada gimme." Naruto's sweat dropped as Anya then dove her fork into the food. Anya took a bite and her eyes sparkled. "Papa, this is delicious." "I appreciate it, Anya." Naruto smiled at her as he watched her scarf her food down. "Gonna need to work on her manners if we're gonna be applying to eat in academy." "Do my ears hear the sweet sound of irony?" Anya stopped eating and looked up at Naruto. Naruto hadn't noticed her gaze as he too began to dig into his food. "Kurama, I have manners." "Hee, I hate to admit it, but it's been entertaining to see the struggle with this child." Naruto gave a slight pout, and Anya's eyes widened as wide as saucers. "Is there something inside of Papa? Why is she looking at you like that?" Anya's head snapped away from Naruto, and she began devouring the food at an even faster rate. Naruto looked over at Anya and shrugged, "I don't know, she's a kid. They're weird like that." Anya scarfed her food as she wondered what that voice was. "Papa was tired," whispered Anya as she sat to the side of Naruto. A small night light illuminated the living room as she watched the TV. Naruto and Anya were both sleeping in the living room in the bed Naruto had dragged out of his room. Naruto's clones had ended up painting all 3 rooms. Anya's room had been painted pink and Naruto's room had been painted burnt orange. When Naruto was cleaning the dishes, Anya managed to convince Naruto's clones that the 3rd room also needed painting. Naruto nearly killed his clones when he found the 3rd room painted in a combination of pink and orange. Surprisingly, Anya had helped the clones as she was determined to see the result. After cleaning up his clones' mess, Naruto ended up dragging a bed into the living room. The smell of the freshly painted room was too much for both of them. Naruto was asleep as the day's events had been a lot for him. Anya sat next to him in the same bed and she was currently watching her favorite spy show. However, her attention was currently looking over at Naruto. Anya couldn't stop thinking about the second voice she had heard. Anya poked Naruto, and she was answered by a loud snore. Anya's sweat dropped and pondered out loud, "I wonder who that second voice was." Anya toppled backward as an orange bubbly substance began to form on Naruto's body. The orange substance began to bubble rapidly, and quickly formed the shape of a fox. Its face was quickly formed until it made a distinguishable face. Then its eyes opened and Anya was left shaking in fear. "So, you can read the minds of people." Anya was about to cry in terror at not only the evil fox in front of her but the fact that it knew her secret. However, the fox hushed her, "Do not fret, child. I will not harm you nor will I reveal your secret." Anya gulped as she didn't know what to think. It felt like she was in a nightmare, but she tightened her fists. She couldn't be scared. She was Agent Penguin now, and it was her job to help her papa in his mission. She had to be brave. Anya's eyes hardened, and with her new resolve she asked, "Who are you?" "I go by many names," the fox let out an evil laugh. "But just because you intrigue me, you can call me Kurama." That's it for this movie. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.